Don't make me come over there, Matthew.
I know.
I'll pound your chest just like Jack did.
God, man. Who do I think I am? Charlie? Oh, I just drinking my water, minding my own business, and I start choking. That right there, Sam, is proof that evolution doesn't exist. Can't even drink water without choking on it.
You know, it pisses me off because we're like supercomputers. You know, we're like this super powerful, super strong machine, and yet one thing goes wrong with us, and we just die.
I know. Yeah.
You know, like that pisses me off. We should be like indestructible, you know?
Yeah.
Or something, just have some sort of resilience. But no, you know, I chew a grape and it doesn't just fit this certain size hole in my throat and then I just die. Like that's messed up.
I was watching Mandalorian with Dad, and we're just there chilling, enjoying it. And I had like those little sour gummies, they're watermelons. Popped one in my mouth, slid right down my tongue, and went right down my throat, like perfectly. Like I wasn't choking, but it was just lodged there. I was like,
crap. Oh my God.
Evolution. It's all fake.
Evolution. If we evolved from monkeys, how come there's still monkeys?
Okay.
No, I don't want to be one of those.
Yeah, but I'm 33 years old and allergies are like my biggest enemy. Like I'm going to die by my allergies, by sinuses. Yeah. And I'm like, come on. Like, ugh. All right, well, that's enough.
Okay.
That's enough death for this Christmas. Let's jump back in.
Speaking of death.
Welcome back to Lost Legacies podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
So first off, salutations. Secondly, apologies for any audio issues. My neighbors who have had dogs my entire life, but they never knew how to take care of dogs, never learned how to take care of dogs. Now they just introduced a new little guy to the pack, and he's terrified. So if you hear screaming and barking and chewing in the back, it's the dogs. I really wish I could just like steal them all and raise them myself. Maybe on an island in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, they'd probably be better for it. You see, that's what Vincent needs. Vincent needs some canine friends.
But knowing this island, they're going to have a shady backstory. The dog like ate their owner or
that's
something.
True.
You know?
Well, I mean, you want to get real. We don't know anything about Vincent.
That's true. Maybe he ate his owner.
Yeah.
Maybe he ate Walt's mom.
Whoa.
That's how she died.
Whoa. It's destiny driving everything forward. He knew Walt and Michael had to get on the island. Mm-hmm. So he took one for the team. He ate the mom.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Wow.
That's hardcore.
Dang. Well, I know that's a bit morbid, but in all actuality, it is Christmas week. And what better episode to discuss Christmas week than this one? We got to trek through the jungle to save the pregnant young girl and her baby. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was good.
I mean, Claire's pregnant, just like Mary was at this time of year. There's the color red, the red that is leading, that's going to hopefully lead some people back to camp. Red.
That's a very good biblical reference there, Sam. I'm I'm impressed.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's
come up with them as I go.
What else do we got?
Daddy issues, family trauma. Hey, what's Christmas without it?
Yeah, that's true. Oh man, this episode was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But this is episode 11 of season 1, called "All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues."
What a title!
It's a good title. I like it. So after discovering that Ethan was never on the plane, the survivors rush to track down Claire and Charlie, who have seemingly been taken. And feeling guilty about not believing Claire, Jack stops at nothing to find her.
Mm,
So this was our first episode where we get like a second glimpse into someone's life, you know,
yeah.
other than the pilot, of course. But yeah, Jack's our first double flashback.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you feel about this episode, Sam? Did you like it?
Yeah. Yeah. I really liked it. Kind of like what we were talking about with the last episode, how like it feels like things are finally starting to happen, you know, like plot is finally starting to come in. Uh yeah, I think this episode was kind of like the perfect blend of moving the plot forward and the flashback sort of uh tying in the themes of both situations going in, you know, because it's all about like kind of like Jack's guilt
Mm-hmm.
at not being able to save somebody on the operating table, and then here again while on the island he's feeling guilty that he didn't believe Claire, and now she's kidnapped, you know, to whatever end. So he wants to stop at nothing. And I thought this was kind of, you know, we the last couple of episodes have been sort of that flashback versus plot momentum, and I feel like sometimes it worked better than others, but I feel like this one was kind of like the first episode that really perfectly encapsulated that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think because this is it's we're gonna have to wait to see the rest of the survivors flashbacks, because we've talked about how a few of them were the events that led them to the plane that led to the island.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have like I think it was Sawyer and Saeed, or it wasn't. It was at another point in their life, and we don't know exactly when. Jax, now that he's had two flashback episodes, we don't know the exact time frame. His first one was the events that led him to Australia. We had to go find his dad, where he found him dead.
Right.
That led him to the plane. This one, we don't exactly know how long it is before that other flashback. So we don't know what that time frame is. But we're starting to put the pieces together. Like, okay, now we're seeing the sequence of events.
Yeah.
Now everything that Jack has done to this point makes a lot more sense, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And his last episode, too, we get the flashback where he's a kid and he's talking to his dad.
Oh yeah.
Remember that? And he's saying,
Yeah.
like, you just don't have what it takes. And now this one, Jack's an adult, and man, his dad is really buttering him up. Like he knows which buttons to press. You know, you're
Mm-hmm.
the finest surgeon in this city. Blah blah blah. You're
Mm-hmm.
amazing. You're skilled. I'm like, oh, you dirty, rotten bastard.
So I've just been noticing how certain characters in TV and movies are written, and it was very interesting to see Jack's dad in that scene talking to him, because the whole conversation he's always talking about himself. He's always talking about him, you know, like this reflects me. Oh, you know, you're tied to this, you know, so that's where you come in. But it's always a thing of like, how does this situation affect him, his standing, where he's at? Think of what this is going to do to him. And then once he sees that all of that stuff isn't working, that's when he turns the tables and say, you know, I had to sacrifice so much so I could get here, so that you can be who you are. And it's like, man, it really, kudos to the writers, kudos to the actor, but man, that sucks. Once again, Jack's dad wins the Crappy Father of the Year award. And yeah, and it's so interesting too, because like obviously we're audience members, we can see that this guy is not up to snuff. He's not, you know, he's not a good person. And Jack knows that too. But as soon as he gets even just an inkling of the affection that he's always sought from his father. As soon as he gets just a tiny grasp of that, he caves. And I'm like, man, what? That's good writing. That's good storytelling right there. That's great character work.
Mm-hmm. It's also crazy how we've always seen Jack as this leader, so sure of himself, so in charge, and that's never really wavered. He's going to try his best to help as many people as he can, do the right thing, whatever that is in his eyes, even if it's to his own detriment. This episode was a big example of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's so weird to see him not be that guy. You know, it's just, no, man. He's just dude. He's just another one of us.
Yeah, and see, that's what I really like about this show, is that we're getting to see all of these just normal people. You know, I feel like a lot of maybe a lot of shows now, if they're doing something that's kind of on the level of Lost, or just something that has to be a little more realistic or a little more grounded, I feel like there's always a need to sort of establish right away, oh wait, like this is a super important person, you know, like this is gonna, like this person is supposed to be here, you know, and I think people put that into their writing a little too soon, too often. And one of the great things I love about this is that there's no precedent to have it be sci-fi. There's no precedent to have this be about destiny. If you took out the monsters, if you took out, you know, a bunch of stuff, if you took out the whole destiny plot, you know, from last episode with Claire, this is just people living on an island. You know, they got the raw end of a deal, and now they're just here stuck, and they have to figure out how to survive. And I think that'd be great. I think that'd be great even without all the magic stuff. I think the magic stuff is there just to sort of like pepper in, you know, some flavor, you know, give it some flavor, add some spice to people's lives. But yeah, yeah, I lost my train of thought because I just got so excited about how, like, these are just real people stuck in the situation. And yeah, that's sorry.
Yeah. I like Boone has the conversation with Locke this episode, asking him
that's what I was building to. Yeah,
about that, you know, like, what did you do before you were here? You know, hitman, what's he say?
Taxidermist.
Taxidermist.
Yeah.
Locke says no. He says I worked for whatever box company, essentially. And it's like, yeah, that's really, and just him alone from his one episode we've seen, he had a huge transformation, and it seems to just have been this plane crash.
Yeah,
you know, so it's gonna be. I'm interested to see what happens with Jack and where's that transformation. You know,
right?
Because we see who he is in these flashbacks, and he has to rat out his dad. We've seen him go after his dad after he dies, and it's tough to get a good like gauge on who he is as a person, Jack, because you could tell he's distraught. He could tell he's just trying to find his dad, you know. But then instantly, the island, he's like in leader mode. So like, was he already this person before? You know, before the island, while he was trying to hunt down his dad, is he that guy? But it was just the circumstances which kind of made him act not like him. Like, who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think I think they kind of answer that earlier in the season when Jack's just kind of being standoffish about having a ceremony for the dead. Like, he doesn't want any part in it, but he doesn't know how to say that. So he's just like, no, that's not for me. And everyone's like, oh, well, okay. You know, he's already been the person who's been taking charge and helping people. But when it comes to that aspect of it, he doesn't want to do it. So yeah, like it's interesting to see how when pushed to the situation, you know, he sort of like comes up to it, but then also, you know, we get the flashbacks where that's not always been the case, you know. And yeah, I don't know, maybe it is something that's like, maybe it is just the island, maybe that's the side that it brings out in this one specific person, you know.
Mm-hmm. And also, it's kind of hard to tell, but he's probably still doesn't want to be the leader.
Oh,
You
for
know,
sure.
he deals with that in his first episode of the season where he doesn't, again, like you say, he doesn't want to take part in that. He doesn't want to help people with all these different problems. He's like, I'm a doctor. This is what I know how to do. So this is what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. But of course, in hindsight, here we are talking about the show. I think it would have been cool to show someone who like would challenge that leadership, to really see how far Jack doesn't want to be leader. Because
Yeah.
really, the only one who to do that is Sawyer, and there's no way Sawyer's going to be a leader.
No,
There's
no
no
way.
chance in hell. I guess you could say Saeed or Locke, but neither of those characters are stepping up, and they're both stepping up and leading in their own ways.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as Jack says something, they're like, all right, cool. All right.
Yeah.
Or Saeed will just be like, all right, I'm going to do my own thing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But this is going back to Kate and the Marshal. This is something I would have been interested to see. Like, man, if the Marshal had lived, guarantee you he would try and take control.
Oh yeah.
And the only reason I want to speculate about that is because I'm really curious. Like, if someone else stepped up, would Jack just step aside? They're like, yeah, sure, you take care, or you could take over, lead everyone.
I think depending on the person, yeah.
I feel like early in the season, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, after what, maybe 2 weeks on the island,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Or he would, but he's still going to be very much a part of any decisions, you know.
Yeah.
He would need to trust someone. Like, I feel like if Saeed stepped up and said, this is what we have to do, this is how we're going to do it, I'm sure Jack would easily like go with it.
Yeah,
You know?
I agree. If it was Saeed, yeah, I think he would be fine with stepping down. If it was Locke, I feel like he would be okay, but it would be sort of that thing of like, okay, well, if Locke does something, you know, or like maybe it would have been a thing of like, maybe we should start putting things to votes, you know, or asking the people what they want to do, because it doesn't really, like, Locke is kind of just, oh yeah, he's hunting, so he's providing for us, but
yeah,
he's also very standoffish and off-putting. So like, if he just suddenly decides, hey, I want to be the leader, like, I think that's where this sort of structure of power would start coming in. Whereas right now, everybody's just kind of like, oh yeah, let's talk to Jack.
Yeah, I honestly feel like Saeed would be the only one Jack would be cool with.
Yeah.
Maybe Kate, but he already has serious trust issues with Kate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But in regards to Locke, like, even this episode, Michael tells him he wants to help. Locke just basically says, y'all are going to slow us down, you know? And he tells Michael, if you're going to take a group, go south. Locke knows that's in the opposite direction. You know? So yeah, man, I don't know. It's really interesting because even we talked about this last episode. He was there when Saeed was talking about that they're not alone. There's more people on this island. It's going to be interesting to see what Locke does with that info. But it's cool to see him working with Jack. He's like, okay, let's go find Claire. Let's go find him. But Jack's the one who's really losing it this episode. Like, he just keeps pushing. We got to find him. We got to find her. We got to find her. It's like,
yeah.
Oh my God. So, and I like what Locke said. He's like, no, we're going to take a break. You know, and then of course Kate has a talk with him and all that stuff. But Locke definitely seemed like one of the good guys this week. Not saying that he has seemed like a bad guy, but he's definitely has his own motivations and he does his own thing, you know,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
of course we see is what he's doing in this episode as well.
Yeah. I'd say it should be Hurley. Just let Hurley lead.
Hurley, right?
He's got some good ideas. He's had some good ideas so far. So
Yeah, I think Hurley's great at delegating, and I
yeah.
think it would really work out. We'll just make him in charge of the island,
Yeah.
and you can tell people what to do. Um, yeah. So this episode, we see it's Jack, Kate, Locke, and Boone go off looking for Ethan, Charlie, and Claire, and they end up splitting off.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack. It was kind of clever the way they did it too. Jack has this confrontation with Ethan that no one is around to see.
Mm-hmm.
Gets his ass kicked.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, man.
Which surprises me because, you know, like Ethan, he seemed like a pretty scrawny guy, but
Right?
he knows how to throw down. He waited. He always waited for Jack to throw the punch.
He
and then he
did.
would react. Yeah. So
He did. And another thing though, Locke feels like it's his fault because he spent the most time with Ethan. He went hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Locke says, everything I know about hunting, Ethan knows more.
Yeah.
I was like, well, crap. It would have been nice if we had that established.
Exactly.
You know?
Again, this is something that I feel like was overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ethan should have been there like pilot episode 1 somewhere, right. You know, even if he was, you know, even if he is just like, I mean, no, even if like he's from the island. But it would have been nice if he had just been peppered in here and there, showing us different things, you know, like going off and doing different things, like just being an established character, and then having that reveal where Hurley goes like, there's somebody who's not on the manifest who's here. Well, who is it? And then Ethan shows up and you're like, boom, mind blown. That would have been amazing. Like all you had to do was have Ethan go on the hunt with Locke and Michael and Kate.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all you had to do. Like maybe have him like say a thing about like tracking the boar, and Locke is like, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's understandable seeing like just the production and how they made this show. I'm willing to bet they got the idea like, hey, we're gonna kidnap Claire. Someone's after the baby. Oh, let's tease him. Let's sprinkle it in. Otherwise, this twist isn't gonna work. So what is this, 11? So they had the idea while making like episode 9. And they're like, okay, well, we have to throw him in the next episode. You know, which still isn't enough time to really sell this guy yet, you know?
Yeah.
But because even then, it's the end of episode 10 when we realize, oh, it's Ethan. So we get 2 episodes with him, and he's barely in either one. Yeah. It's like, all right. So again, hindsight, I wish they had teased him in more. So it would have been more of a twist. Otherwise, it's like, of course, it's this guy. He's the only background actor who's come back with lines 2 episodes in a row.
Yeah, yeah.
We still haven't even seen Rose for like since like episode 4. I think, yeah. So
we need to have an episode counter for Rose, because I feel like at some point she's just going to not be there anymore, and then it's going to be the finale, and everybody gets off the island. It's like, oh, there's Rose. We haven't seen her in like 21 episodes. Yeah. Where have you been? Rose is the island.
Oh man. Yeah. So yeah. Again, Ethan troubles. You know, what could you do?
Yeah.
But so while Kate and Jack go off and they find Charlie hanging from a tree.
Oof,
in a very disturbing moment. I'm like, oh my God, dude, it's brutal. I thought it was done really well though. It was intense, edge of your seat, very reminiscent of the first episode, like specifically that tree they filmed under.
Yeah.
because that was Jack, Kate, and Charlie in the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
In the rain under that tree, and now here's Charlie hanging from it, and Charlie, Charlie's not, he's dead. Jack's trying to give him mouth to mouth. He's trying to, pump him full of air. It's not working.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack just starts beating the ever living hell out of Charlie's chest. I'm like, oh God, dude. So it's nerd stuff, but people, they track everything, specifically numbers on this show. Jack beat him I want to say 24 times, and
Oh,
he
wow.
stopped. And then, they stop and they kind of just cry a little bit. And Jack's like, nope, I'm going again. He does it another 9. I'm like, oh my God. But that says a lot about Jack,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe it says something about the island, Charlie was out for a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did he just Jon Snow us? Better than Jon Snow? Because let's be honest, Jon Snow came back like nothing. He was a little blue, but then an episode in, and he's Jon Snow again.
Yeah.
Charlie, at least we can tell, whether he actually died or not, who knows? But we could tell, okay, something happened to this guy. And he doesn't remember either.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, first off, let me just comment. The fact that people count everything on this show, that's impressive.
Or it's just psychotic, Sam. You can say it.
Yeah, probably. But when you love something, Matt.
I love all the way. Full hearts, man.
The heart wants what it wants, Matt.
The heart wants what it wants, man. In the infamous words of Selena Gomez, the heart wants what it wants.
Oh. But yeah, I mean, obviously, to tie it back to to the episode, it's almost a repentance, or not a repentance. That's the wrong word. It's a redemption, because Jack knew he could save that girl's life on the operating table, and his dad told him no. His dad kept telling him to call it. He kept calling him out, saying no, Jack, call it. All of that, and then it just becomes a fight between him and his father. That's kind of, I feel like that's kind of Jack's driving force through his centric episodes. It's him kind of railing against his father, and especially the previous one. It's his unresolved issues with his dad. He isn't going to get to lay his dad to rest. He's not going to bury his body. All of that. He never gets to say everything that he wanted to say. This episode is prior to that in terms of those flashbacks, but it's him. I think what these episodes do, what these flashbacks do, they're sort of like the perfect sort of microcosm of events in people's lives that change them for one way or the other. And that episode, I feel like maybe there have been arguments between Jack and his dad for years and years. There's resentment, there's guilt tripping, there's all of that, there's gaslighting, all of it. It's in this moment where Jack is finally at this place of peace where he's like, okay, my dad and I are on some sort of common ground together. Unsteady, but it's there enough. It's level enough. And then his dad just says outright, oh yeah, I knew that the girl had was pregnant, but it was early enough where we just had to focus on the mom. And the fact that Jack didn't know about the fact that Jack wasn't told prior to going into the ER, but also by his dad in the situation where he gaslights him, that's the moment where it's like he knows 100% who his father is now. A lifetime of all of this, and it's this moment that he knows this man is 100%, pardon my French, a piece of shit. And that's the point of him reviving Charlie at the end. It's not just the fact that Jack feels guilty about Claire and, the fact that, he doesn't, he's a doctor. That's his job to save people. And now he can't save this one person who's also in the situation technically because of him. It's also the fact that I can't let my dad win. I can't let my father be right. I can't let my father hold me back in this instance. I'm going with my gut, and my gut tells me I can save this person. And then 9 more times.
Even if he can't, because that's the thing you were saying, like Jack knew he can save the girl. He probably knew he could, but in reality, I don't think he could. Like the damage was already done.
Yeah.
And that says a lot about that character.
He won't quit. He doesn't give up.
Yeah, he won't, but I think it's also a need.
Yeah.
He needs to save her. He needs to save Charlie.
Yeah.
He's always been told his whole life that he's not good enough. So in a way, yes, like I do feel it's proven his dad wrong, but at the same time, I think he's proving it to himself. Like I'm good enough. If I can't fix this, he's too afraid to face that.
Yeah.
To face that, if I can't fix this, what does that say about me? Which of course is an extremely toxic way of thinking. Stemmed from a toxic relationship with his father. But yeah.
But at the same time, now that you say it in that context, I guess it is sort of a thing of like Jack is also sort of proving it to himself. And that's technically positive. That's a better reinforcement than, just railing against his dad, making it like an F you to dad, like I'm better than you sort of thing. Like, no, or you're wrong thing. It is a thing of like self-assurance, I guess. It's still toxic, but it at least in this respect is a slightly more positive version,
I guess. I mean, I think it's still, this is the aftermath of the relationship with his father.
Right.
So as much as it's about his dad, it also isn't.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's oh man, it's just a horrible way of thinking. He's been raised his whole life with one mindset. So as much as I would like to say, we are our own worst enemy, and we should always work to better ourselves, Jack's doing it in like the most toxic way possible, because it's not about wanting to be better. It's about like being worthy. So even more than, it's not sure. Like we said, part of it is like, okay, can't prove my dad wrong. I want to prove myself right. I want to prove that I'm worth it. But I think it's more of the negative side of it. Like if I fail, who am I? What does that say about me?
Right.
I think that's the part that's really driving him, especially too, because like they've only been on this island 2 weeks. So his dad died 2 weeks ago and maybe a few days. So he's still processing that, he's still in the aftermath. This is Jack Shepherd post the dad relationship. And it goes back to the title, it's the daddy issues. And because Jack's a cowboy, I guess. I don't know. He's like the hero. He's the sheriff, he's the lawman on the island.
Yeah, totally.
Even if he doesn't want to. So, yeah. So while all this is going on through the whole episode, let's talk a little bit about Walt, because this is the first time we actually get to see Walt like doing stuff.
He's in this episode a lot, and I was really surprised by that. I was really glad too. But
because usually it's only like maybe one scene per episode, and it's really small or something.
Yeah,
and it's usually with his dad. This episode, he's doing all this other little stuff, which was cool, and it added a lot of lightheartedness to the episode, which I think it needed. But he's with different pairings, so we see him having a conversation, like he's filling Sawyer in on the news, everything that's happening. And I was laughing. I was like, oh man, even
Yeah.
Sawyer knows the situation. He's like, why am I getting the news from a 6-year-old?
It's like, I'm 10. Oh, well, then that means it's true. Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. And I like what he said. He's like, who the hell's Ethan? Exactly. Sawyer gets it. He gets it.
Sawyer gets it. Way to be meta. Yeah.
Yeah, but I did like how Walt was saying, I think Ethan was already here. He was already living here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
And then later he's playing backgammon with Hurley and he's kicking Hurley's butt and like he's wishing for whatever numbers and he gets those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2 rolls in a row. Like,
Seemingly more, but from what we see, because now Hurley is $20,000 into, in debt to Walt.
Yeah, he owes Walt $20,000.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
I only bet what I have, man. And I know that's not how you gamble, but
bet you a coconut.
I am not a gambling man. I'll bet you a fish that I'm gonna let Charlie catch.
Yeah. Yeah, and in this episode, Walt mentions his other dad, Brian.
Yeah.
And he even kind of catches himself and he looks uncomfortable about it. And Hurley doesn't press him on it, but I was like, oh, that's a cool little moment right there.
Mm-hmm.
And his other dad said that he was always lucky. Like, But then, of course, later, or I guess before, I don't remember the order, but we do see Walt calling out Michael. He because Michael's talking about Locke and like he doesn't know what he's doing or something like that, and Walt comes into Locke's defense. He's a warrior. He does this and that and blah blah blah. And Michael's just like he's like, I don't want you hanging out with this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Yeah, there's a cool little, and that's not the first time we've seen this happening. There's a little divide being driven between Michael and Walt. Honestly, it was there before the show even started, as we can tell, but it's just widening. And they've been hinting at it since the beginning of the series. They've been hinting at a divide between Michael and Locke as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And
Vision.
because that sort of starts when Michael is asking like, hey, like I want to come, like, let me go on the thing, and Locke kind of shuts him down. Yeah, like that is kind of interesting that and I feel like just from what we know about Locke, I feel like it's not without reason. Locke has a reason for everything he does on the island. The fact that he's the one that goes with Jack and Kate and Charlie to the caves, and he purposefully keeps bumping into Charlie and then lets him know, hey, I know that you got drugs. I know that you're addicted, and then that's where we get Charlie's whole episode where he's, I ask you 3, or you can ask 3 times, on the 3rd time I'll give it to you. That whole thing. The fact that he's the one who finds Jack and tells Jack he needs to go do whatever it is that he needs to do. He needs to finish his journey in order to be an effective leader. Like the fact that Locke purposefully keeps pushing Michael away or keeping him at bay, that's not without reason. I'm hoping we get to see that sort of come to a head.
But here's the thing too, like we haven't really seen him do anything to push Michael away. It seems like it's all coming from Michael's side.
Yeah, that's that's true.
Now, granted, like especially this episode, Locke could have probably had a little more tact in the way he turns down Michael's offer.
But Michael is very reactionary. He's very defensive.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it is like, oh, like he spurned me. Like, come on. Like, I want to go. Like, how come? It's like sending me south. Come on. Like because it's kind of the same thing with anytime he's with Jin, or the fact that like they get into a fight and he's just like, he's pissed. He's had it. He's just like, no, like what's the hell's going on? Yeah. So yeah. So
Like
yeah, I
Jin's the
guess
one
that's
who
where it
has
came from.
anger issues, but Michael's the one who has the short fuse.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to take a lot of crap from anybody.
Mhm.
Um, Instead of just kind of stopping and listening, he just kind of jumps to conclusions.
Yeah.
Um, I like what Michael says. He's like, well, you know what? I'm not a warrior, but I am going south. He's like, I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna try and help. And then Hurley has the line, they call me a warrior back home as well, or something to that fact.
Yeah.
And Walt just gives him that look. He's like, that's why I think Hurley plays D&D for sure.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's try and figure out Hurley's class and character.
Ooh,
If he's considered a warrior, for me that sort of spells either fighter or barbarian.
he seems more of a fighter to me because he's
Something
more.
something like a knight, like
Yeah,
that
he's kind of more
traditional.
maybe not tactical, but Hurley's gonna think about his decisions before he makes them.
Exactly. Yeah, the fact that we just said that like he delegates very well.
Right.
That I feel like that lends itself better to a fighter, something like a knight,
I
a
kind of
noble status.
also
Yeah.
I totally see Hurley as a magic user.
Oh, that's true.
So
That's
maybe
true.
like an Eldritch Knight or something like that.
Or no, dude, like a blade slinger or something.
Oh, the Blade Singers. Yeah. Like I can
Yeah.
see that. He's playing like
He's like Gandalf. He's gonna be like movie Gandalf. He's got the staff. He knows some spells, but he's also whipping out that sword.
yeah.
That's kind of how I see Hurley.
Yeah. I would say
He's maybe a little more magic heavy, but
I say we can go if we're doing this line of thinking, we'll go with the Blade Singer because that's probably the most versatile as far as like fighting and magic.
mhm.
That and Eldritch Knight. So I don't know. We're really, really getting into the geekiness now because I'm going to be thinking about this. Um,
This is a goal that I have
but
by the end of this series. We're going to peg every
every
single
character
person
we're gonna have our
who their
our
D&D
lost
is.
alternate universe where they
Yeah,
just stay on the island playing D&D. I also feel like
exactly.
Hurley would be like an awesome dungeon master.
I feel like that's very like old school though. I don't know how Hurley would feel about like 5e.
Oh yeah, dude, because this show was over a decade before fifth edition.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So I'm thinking it's got to be maybe like 3, maybe 4th edition D&D.
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Getting very specifics now. Like I don't know.
All right, let's just say it's traditional. He's in the dungeon master robe in the basement that's lit by candles and a lava lamp. Okay, that's Hurley.
I could see Hurley doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pizza on the side, but yeah.
About Locke. So this episode, he goes off on his own with Boone, actually.
Yeah, alone with Boone.
I like their little talk about the red shirts from Star Trek.
Mhm. Oh, let me just say, I loved that Locke kind of called Kirk out on his BS.
Yeah.
The fact that like all the red shirts die, and Locke just looks at him and he's like, "Well, that's a pretty BS captain."
So fun
Piss
fact,
poor captain. That's what he calls him. Yeah.
fun fact, Terry O'Quinn guest starred on Star Trek Next Generation, where he
Oh,
played a Starfleet admiral who as a captain suffered mutiny due to poor leadership skills.
oh.
Yep.
Do you think
I don't know. Was that a nod? Maybe. That's like a very obscure reference.
that's
But if you think
yeah,
about it,
yeah? But if you think about it, this is kind of a show that's built for that. Remember, when we first started this, you told me about the comic book that Walt is reading. It's the Spanish version of a Justice League thing,
mhm,
which very briefly featured a polar bear. Like
yep,
that's too coincidental for me. Like that has to be intentional. That now that I know this about Terry O'Quinn, yeah,
right.
I feel like it's intentional, 100%.
Yeah, probably, most likely, knowing that everyone making the show is a bunch of nerds,
Mm-hmm.
just like us, probably. The writer of this episode, I have no idea how I'm going to say this. Javier Grillo Margusach. I have no idea. I'm sorry, Javier. He's from Puerto Rico. That
Okay.
doesn't seem like is that a Puerto Rican name? I don't know. We're just gonna call him Javi for now. But yeah, he wrote this episode. He's done a lot of stuff, man. Um, a lot of really cool, like nerdy stuff too. Before then, he had worked on a couple series, mostly. Oh, he did a few stuff. The only one I really recognized is Charmed.
Mm.
But after that, yeah, man, he's did. He worked a lot on the 100. He did a lot of Shannara Chronicles.
Oh.
The most recent Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance. He did a
Mm-hmm.
lot. I don't see any. He did write his first writing gigs were for Sequest. That's interesting.
Oh wow.
Man, that's taking it back. Oh, and The Pretender. Oh,
I
wow.
love The Pretender. I was just thinking about that the other day.
Well, kudos to this guy. I bet he's a Star Trek fan. So, Locke, Boone, they're on their own talking about Star Trek. And Locke starts, he kind of reveals that, he doesn't really say it, but he's not following the trail anymore. And he asks Boone, he's like, don't you feel that? And Boone has no idea what he's talking about. And then that's kind of when, eventually at the end of the episode, Boone decides he's going to go back. So Locke tosses in the flashlight and it falls and it hits something that sounds like steel. Ding!
Mm-hmm.
And they start looking and start digging. And they think maybe it's a piece of the plane crash, but it's like underground. It's under mud. And Boone asks, what is it? And that's when Locke replies, that's what we're going to find out. Doosh. And that's where the episode ends.
Oh,
It's like,
Locke.
oh, man. Okay. The plot thickens.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I guess before we get into that, we'll do things as normally, as we usually do. This is a great episode, so I'm curious, who are your MVPs?
Yeah, yeah, man. I'm not. This was one of those episodes that I had a real hard time with, but yeah, I think I got to give it to Matthew Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Because he, obviously he's got the heavy hand this episode. He's got the bulk of the stuff that he needs to do. He has to play in two different timelines, but still also be on kind of the same journey. But he just Matthew Fox really just sells. He really sells you on emotions, and to a point where it's like, if you do, like, if he does it just a little too much further, it could be hammy, or it could come off cheesy. But I feel like he does it in such a way that, like, it's perfect for television. It's perfect for, this is a soap opera. This is kind of like a big budget soap opera that's also this mystery sort of show. Like, but at the end of the day, it's still about these people who are going through these very human problems. And, the moment that Jack gets to have a real connection with his dad, what he thinks is a real connection, that was moving, man. And then when he hears his dad basically admit to a lie in the face of that sort of quorum,
Such a betrayal, man.
Such a betrayal, and you can see that in his eyes. And then you instantly, like, he's like, I have to retract my statement. And then he tells the truth, and it's like you can just see that. And again, with everything on the island, his guilt, that it's like a stone. It's almost like you can see him carrying that stone on his back.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think Matthew Fox, I think, is. I didn't necessarily understand it, but I think Matthew Fox is a very underrated actor.
Right. And what's incredible about it is that this story, I don't know if they already had this mapped out before Jack's previous episode. all we knew in the last one is that he does something that drives a wedge between him and his father. They're not on speaking terms, and his dad is a drunk. He's alcoholic, can't take care of himself, and the mom, Jack's mom, kind of alludes to the fact that this is Jack's fault, and that's all we know regarding his past. So this episode fills in that gaps. We find out what happens, what Jack does to his dad that causes that ending. But it seems very seamless. I think they did a really good job of blending these two chapters together. So even if they didn't have it all written out earlier in the season, it feels like they did, because these two stories combine perfectly into one story, which is Jack Shepherd.
Right.
And you can see now, like, oh, okay, a lot of the guilt that Jack kind of feels around his dad, it makes sense because this is what happened, And
Yeah.
now as well, we can see, okay, well, maybe, yes, it's because he didn't believe Claire, but also that's another baby's life in his hands,
Yeah.
He didn't realize that that woman was pregnant when she died. And now he has, like, I don't know if it's a second chance, but not so much that he sees Claire as a second chance, but he's not going to let it happen again. And I think
Yeah.
that's a big driving force for him. And the writing and Matthew Fox, everything was perfect for this episode. Uh, yeah. Well, okay. So for my MVP, I'm going to have to give it to Terry O'Quinn.
Okay.
What can I say, man? Locke. I think Locke is such a good character. Terry O'Quinn plays it so well. I like seeing him with Boone. It's a really interesting relationship, that pairing right there. Yeah, man, that's all I can really say. And also there was a lot of the other characters in this episode didn't have a lot to do. Boone, his whole thing was playing off of Locke. Kate, she had some good moments, but most of her was reacting to Jack.
Yeah.
The only other one who really stood out was Walt, just because we got more of him than we ever have before. Those are 2 MVPs.
I like it.
All right, Sam. So we need to do some Sam predictions. Now, so far, we've had fun. We're having some fun with some of these predictions, but now we're getting to the point where the mysteries are really ramping up. They're throwing new characters at us. They're throwing more creepy, mysterious stuff at us. So now this is kind of where before we're like, oh, we're having fun because we don't know anything that's going on this island. So I'm just, we're guessing like crazy. But now that they're giving us and feeding us more stuff, like what do you think is going to happen? Either next episode or like long game? What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I like not knowing. This is cool. Obviously, and I feel bad because I feel like I keep bringing this up almost every episode, but there's still some stuff that I know about. So, something like the scene with Charlie, like as emotional and impactful as it was, like kind of already knew he was going to make it out. But yeah, I don't know anything that happens to Claire. I don't know anything that happens in this situation. I didn't know that already this early we learned about the others, because they've said that word. They've said like maybe there's others on the island or something like that. But then in Saeed's episode, Russo mentions others and you're like, oh, wow. Okay. And then, yeah, now we're like seeing one of them for the first time. Like that's, yeah. So I had no idea about anything like that. I have absolutely no idea. Obviously I feel like we're going to have to get to some resolution pretty close, or pretty soon. Hopefully by next episode, I want to say that everybody comes to Claire's daring rescue. And there's hopefully a standoff with the others. I want to see a showdown. I want to see either Charlie or Jack throw down with Ethan, which I just realized that actor is Tom Cruise's cousin. And I know we mentioned this last week, but his name is Ethan. His cousin's name in the Mission Impossible franchise is Ethan Hunt.
Ethan is also a hunter.
Coincidence?
Mystery solved.
Well, I guess we don't need to do this podcast anymore. We figured it out.
It's over.
We solved the lost puzzle. Cool. All right, pack it up, guys. Good job.
Oh, man.
Our non-existent producer and studio audience.
Well, this is it, man. This is
what a fun Christmas episode.
Yeah, I know, right? It is intense. It's really about family and trying to put a family back together. That's really what it's about, you know?
Yeah. They just have to go through some really bad hardship along the way.
Hey, man, everyone has their ups and downs, you know? If you learn anything from this episode, it's that, yes, family is blood, but it's really about the family that you make. That's what I take away from this.
That's deep. That's deep. I like that.
Yeah, you go save your pregnant patient and her, the VH1 has-been boyfriend. I love Sawyer. Well, yeah, that's something we didn't really talk about. Sawyer kind of approaches Saeed in what appears to be like an intimidating way, but the scene kind of just goes off track, and like Saeed's kind of hinting at him very vaguely about the others, and he heard stuff, and Sawyer kind of reacts in a way someone would if someone is being extremely vague with you, and he's like, all right, well, that's weird, I'm out.
Yeah,
you know, but I thought that was a really good scene between the two of them. Sawyer's still trying to assert his dominance and by approaching him, but then he just kind of gets weirded out by the whole thing. He's like, all right, I'm out. But we shall see what comes of that. So this is episode 11, and this is our last quote-unquote lost rewatch episode of the year, just because I know we're one episode shy of being halfway through the first season, but I feel like this is a better breaking point than the next episode. So I'd rather just start off 2021 with episode 12, hit the ground running. That being said, keep your ears open to this channel because we might have a little something special for you in the works to kill the time, you know? So although there won't be a new Lost Rewatch episode next week, there will still be a Lost Legacies something, a little Christmas gift for you maybe. So
I'm feeling like Sawyer in this situation right now where you're just being super vague, Matt.
Oh, totally. But I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the listeners.
Oh, okay.
Whoever they are, our one person in France who has so far listened to everything.
Hey, that's awesome. Thank you very much.
It's Russo. All right. So, Russo, this is for you. I hope you have Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I hope you find your kid. This isn't goodbye for the year. We do have something special planned for you. So we'll see you then. But other than that, we'll see you back in Lost next year. Have a good one. Until then, get lost.
Get lost.